How's it going out there tonight?
Whoa. You stumped me now.
Check out our website, mannimalresearch.com. Thanks to everybody. Hello. How's it going out there tonight? Hope that everyone is doing well. Those of you that are going to join us live tonight, those of you that will catch it later, we sure do appreciate your support. Thank you very, very much. I am joined tonight by Mannimal member and good friend, Mr. Daryl Owen. How's it going, buddy?
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Wayne, for having me on the show tonight.
Yes, sir. Glad to have you. Glad you were able to step in and help out again. We sure do appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Have fun when you're on. We have fun with walls too, but it's good to mix it up every once in a while too. Well, what's been going on with you, buddy? You had a chance to get out in the woods, do anything?
No, didn't. Just doing a lot of work. We're still remodeling our house, so weekends are filled up on my days off, and then on days off or that I'm working, I'm doing deliveries. Lots of long drives, and working in the heat. So things like that. But I haven't. I'm really planning on doing. I've been doing a lot of research and pre-planning on the Eastern Tennessee campout. So that's where most of my time has been doing a lot of catching up. I'm trying to get some people to come. I got a really good chance of getting some really good people coming. So that's one of those things I've been trying to push. I don't want to throw out. I got people coming because I don't know yet. It's still kind of up in the air. So
I know there's one that we're really hoping that you can get to come out, and I think he's shown a little bit of interest, but it don't know yet. We can't say anything just yet, can we?
No. Well, I can give you a little bit of information. Bigfoot Days was canceled in California. Bigfoot Days is at Willow Creek. It is it's a parade, and you go to the museum, things like that. Every year they have it. Well, this year it's been canceled because of the fires. As always, California is always on fire. And we had a gentleman that was supposed to go out there and meet me during the Bigfoot Days. He is a freelance reporter, and he's done stories for the New York Times and Boston Globe and things like that. And he was supposed to meet me out there this time, but since the fires, everything got canceled. So now I've asked him if he would come here, and he said he would try to do his best to get here, see how much money he can recoup on his flights and everything for going out there, and he would come here instead. So hopefully we'll have some big time reporter out there with us this time. And if not, I'm still going to send him pictures and the stories and stuff like that from the camp out. So, but he's a really good guy. I've talked to him several times, and I'm really excited if he could come. So it's going to be a good thing.
And that would be awesome. Yeah, you've told me a little bit about it, and he's wanting to talk to. He reached out to talk to you because he's wanting to do a story on Bigfoot and Bigfoot researchers, correct?
Yes, sir. That's it.
And then you talked to him, and you threw our name out, my name, and Mannimal.
I did.
And kind of try to do it together. And he seems interested in that. And what he's wanting to do is interview some researchers, and there's certainly going to be some out at our camp out. So I'm hoping that he can put it together and get out there.
Yeah, me too. It's going to be really exciting if he can show up, especially have the group of people that we have together. Squatching Cowboy, Squatching Cowboy and Old Bear, and if Janice Carter can go, you yourself, and myself, Derek, just having some of the researchers that we know show their evidence, talk to this man about what they know, what they've seen. I think it'd be a really good story for us. So I'm working on it. That's all I can say is I'm working on it. I'm trying.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it, man. That's huge. I certainly didn't expect to have anybody from that level to make the trip. So that's awesome, man. Well, John and I, people are regulars that watch the show. Y'all have heard me talk about my buddy John. He's a member of the group. He is he has a PhD in psychology, so he's a doctor, smart guy. He and I went out to check on Thunder Rock this yesterday. Actually, we drove around, checked out the site, talked to the person that was over the site, and then we rode up and looked at the area where we're going to be doing some investigations, and it's just as squatchy as ever up there. Looks really, really good. Just it got me excited, got him excited, and looking forward to it. Didn't really get to do a whole lot. It was just a day trip. Just went out and rode around, looked at it a little bit, but got to spend some time with a buddy and had a look at the place. So it was worth it. I enjoyed it.
Hey, since we're on that, let's just touch base real quick on the site itself, the campground itself.
Okay.
You guys, even if you call for reservations and there's nothing there, still come, because we can fit several cars and several campers or tents and stuff in one site. So we don't want anybody to not come because you can't get a place to stay. Come anyways. It doesn't matter. We'll find space for you. We want to be able to share this with everybody. And bring your families, bring your kids. There's no age limit. Now, the only thing that I could see maybe for late at night is if you want to go out and do a Bigfoot research late at night. Of course, you're going to have your babies with you or your kids with you. Keep them with you, keep them close. But you're going to be with a group of people. Unless you want to go out and be scared by yourself, it's totally up to you. But please don't let the campground be full as saying I can't go, because you will be able to go. We'll find room for you. We'll make room for you. I know I have three people coming personally that are coming, and they're just going to find the place to stay. So just show up. That's all we're asking you to do.
Yeah.
We want to hear your stories as bad as we want to tell ours, and then we want you guys to bring everything in you can. If you got evidence or stories or whatever, please bring them. We're going to have a form out there you guys can write your story down on, so we can share it. I mean, even if it's a private thing, we won't give out your name and stuff, but we would love to share your stories with other viewers and other people. And, a lot of times if you take a look, a lot of people can't make it because they don't live in Tennessee area. Well, those people are excited that we're doing this, and we're wanting to be able to do it and share our stories with them. So, okay.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up, because I did get an email from a couple people that are in the very boat that you're talking about. They weren't able to get a spot, but they're coming anyway because that's what we've told them to do. Come down and we'll get you a spot. And that's something that John and I noticed while we were there. There are two more campgrounds, not just one. There are two more on top of the mountain that we can use that are completely first come, first serve, that we can use for overflow. If it gets too full down there, we can send people up to those other campgrounds. Now, it's a little bit of a drive. Now, one of them is 7 miles, and the other is 13 miles. And that might not sound too bad, but when you're going 5, 6, 7 miles an hour, that can take a while. 7 miles away it's an hour if you can't get over 7 miles an hour. But we will have room for you. So yeah, like Daryl said, guys, come on out. If you can't get reservations, come on out. We'll work something out.
Yeah, and bring your evidence.
Yes. Bring if you have collected casted prints, pictures, anything like that you want to talk about, bring it and share it with everybody. This is your chance.
I'm bringing everything. So my hair, my handprint, my footprints, I'm bringing it all my papers and my books, the things I've been in, I'm bringing it all. So rain or shine, I'm going to be there.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, guys. If y'all haven't done so, hit that subscribe button. We sure would appreciate it. Yeah, do that for us. Also, we are on Facebook, Mannimal Research on Facebook. If you haven't already joined our group, and we know you're on Facebook, everybody is, run on over to Mannimal Research and join up with us. Tonight, guys, we have an awesome guest tonight. I am very, very honored and pleased to bring this guy. He's got some awesome pictures to share with you guys. It's going to be really, really good. Really, really good show tonight. It really is. So I have a feeling you're going to have some questions. So that's fine. If you guys have questions for our guest, Mr. Don Neal, yeah, like I said, ask those questions, but put them in all caps for us if you don't mind. That's one of Daryl's big duties as a co-host is finding the questions and getting them over to me because I don't always see them. So put those in caps, just makes them easier to find. We want to get your questions answered. So and that just makes it easier for us, guys. So put those in all caps. And all right, that's going to just about do it for that. Like I said, tonight we have Mr. Don Neal on. Don is the lead investigator for the KBRO, the Kentucky Bigfoot Research Organization. And like I said, I can't say enough cool stuff about this guy. I've looked at some of his evidence, and he's done some other shows, and he's also a minister, which I think is really cool. A lot of our regulars know my story about coming to devoting my life to the Lord over the last couple of years, and all the great things that's happened in my life because of it. So really, really honored to talk to this guy tonight, and I think you guys are gonna have fun with him. So if you're ready, buddy, we'll bring him on. All right, he's muted, but we'll bring him.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was muted. I'm ready.
That's fine. Here we go, Mr. Don Neal. How's it going, buddy?
Fine, brother. How you doing?
Doing well, sir. Want to thank you again for taking the time tonight to come and hang out with us for a little bit. We appreciate it.
I'm glad to do it. I'm excited. Glad to be here.
Good deal. Told the people a little bit about you. You are you're a minister.
Yes, sir.
And you have been doing this Bigfoot thing for a while now. How long have you been doing it?
You know, it's always hard for me to answer that question. I've been what I'd call serious researcher since 2007, but I've been interested in researching Bigfoot. I didn't know to call it that probably since the middle 70s. And so there's a long story into that, but I would say since the 70s, I've been off and on researching. Never dreamed I'd be into Bigfoot research and join a group. I just did it on my own, just for fun and for a hobby, you know.
Yeah. Now, what got you started in this field? What started your passion?
Well, I like to tell people what happened to me in two phases, and I'll try to throw them in here briefly. Number one, just like everybody else, when I was 13 years old, I believe, 67, I saw the Patterson-Gimlin film on the news, and I was just amazed. I just absolutely saw that, and I thought, oh my goodness. I had heard a little of Bigfoot, nothing big, but I'll never forget that. And I can't remember stuff from 2 weeks ago, but I remember seeing the Patterson-Gimlin film. Then a few years later, I started preaching at 17 years old, kind of unusual. I started in the ministry at 17. That's very young, but that's what I wanted to do, and I've been doing it 50 years now. I've been preaching 50 years. Been in 38 states and 2 foreign countries preaching the gospel and asking about Bigfoot along the way. But anyway, the second phase I got into it is when I was only about 19 years old or so in the ministry. We had a convention. We'd meet once a year in Louisville, Kentucky, from all over the United States. And, the ministers, they wore the suits and the ties. You know how preachers got to dress up. And there was this one guy, of course, I'm a young, impressionable 19-year-old. And this guy looked like Clint Eastwood. I mean, he would come with the chapped, the leather jackets, and he'd wear the cowboy hat and the string tie. And I just thought, man, this guy's so cool because he's breaking the norm. He don't wear the suit and tie. And the story on him, and I got to be careful, we live in a different day, but he is a modern day cowboy born in the wrong era. He was married to an Indian lady. He called her his squaw. You can't say that hardly today, but back then. And he was a missionary to the Indian reservations out in Wyoming and Montana and out in there. And what this guy would do, because this helps the story, this guy would literally take his pack horses and his mules after he'd preach on Sunday to the Indians. He'd take off up in the mountains and stay all week long. He would kill, the different, deer, antelope, moose. He'd set up a camp and then come back on Saturday and bring the hides. He'd preach to the Indians on Sunday, restock and go out again. He was a modern day cowboy. He lived in the woods as much as he lived at home. So this guy was just an interesting character. So I remember this one convention, we all had a big dinner, all the ministers, and they put me at a table with him. There were 6 ministers to a table. Well, I couldn't wait. I wanted to talk to this cowboy preacher and ask him, what's the weirdest, thing you ever did? He kill a bear? I want to know anything about him. And he had the leather face, looked like he'd been scorched in the sun. And he just was just cool. Anyway, we sat at the table that day and I asked him, I said, his name was Johnny. I don't know his last name, I guess, but I said, man, tell me what's the coolest thing you've ever seen out there in the middle of nowhere. He's talking about living 4 and 5 days, sleeping out under the stars. And I said, what's the strangest thing you've ever run into? Looking for a good bear story or something, or a wolf. And he said, well, the strangest thing ever is when I ran into a Bigfoot. And I said, excuse me? And he said, yeah, I was up on the mountains. I had my pack horses. I had a camp. I'd been there about 3 days. I'll never forget this, long as I live. And he said, expert marksman now, Wayne, expert shot. If he shot at something, he was famous for saying, if I shoot at something, I hit it. And so he was up on this mountain. Let me tell the story. He would climb down about 100 feet, and he had found him a nook in these rocks overlooking about a 400-yard wide field. And he was there, and he could shoot these creatures. Then later that evening, he'd go pick them up, come up and spend the night skinning them up on his camp up on the higher part of the mountain. So this is important because he said, I was in this nook of these rocks. They could not see me. They were totally oblivious that I was up there, and I was picking them off. So he said one day he's there in the sun, just enjoying the weather, waiting for something to move. And in his peripheral, he sees something come out into the field. And he said, immediately I thought, that's a gorilla. Of course, I'm on the edge of my seat. I'm 19-year-old. I'm on the edge of my seat. I can't believe this. And he said, so when it walked out, it was picking up some of that grass, some kind of grass, and was chewing the roots off of it, some kind of a plant. And it would take a few steps. And he said, I'm just amazed. So finally, he did something he didn't like to do. He raised his gun and put the scope on it because, as he told me, I don't put a scope on anything unless I'm aiming to kill it. He said, but I had to know what this was. And he said, I looked through the scope at this 7 to 8 foot hair-covered creature with the face of a man, the bulky, huge body, long arms, the long fingers and hands. And he said it was picking up these roots and eating it. And he said, I thought, what am I looking at? What is this? And then he said the strangest thing of all happened. Well, I'm thinking, what's stranger than this? What can happen? And he said, Don, although I was hidden in those rocks and they could not see me. And he said, like a Lewis L'Amour Western, he said, I made sure that the sun wouldn't glint off of my scope. He was that careful. He said that thing stopped and looked up and looked straight at me, right? He said, I felt like it was looking right in that scope, right at me. And he said, I couldn't believe it. How could it? There's no way it could know I was there. And he said it had the look on his face that it was aware I was looking at it through the scope. He said, I let my finger off the trigger. And I said, would you have shot it? He said, not when I saw the face, because it was a man. But the body and everything else told me otherwise. Anyway, it went on off. It walked across the field at a faster pace and went out of sight. And that's the day I was absolutely hooked on Bigfoot. And then that'll bring up the next part of the story. So then as I traveled, like I say, in 38 different states and went into Old Mexico and Canada, I'd preach at nights, but in the daytime, I had my own time. So I would just always ask people. I want to know what some strange things they saw. I was on the Indian reservations out in New Mexico and Oklahoma and Arizona, and I speak to the Indian chiefs, and I'd ask if they believed in Bigfoot. And every time I'd get the story of the tall man of the mountains, the hairy man of the woods, unbelievable stories. I was down in Florida at the Ocala National Forest, and I got to speak to a park ranger who was in our church there. And he told me he said, there's Bigfoot in Ocala National Forest, and we know there are. He said, we see their footprints all the time. I went to upper New York, Lancaster, New York, and up near Buffalo, and got to speak to people in the church who were loggers. And I asked him, what's the strangest thing you see in the woods? And I always knew it was, and he said, well, we've seen Bigfoot tracks, and we've had Bigfoot in our camp. And everywhere I went, it didn't matter. Out west, I talked to cowboys out in West Texas who still rode the range back in the 70s, and they would tell about seeing Bigfoot out there in the mountains. And so I was researching and didn't know I was researching. I was gathering. Oh, how I wished I had written it down, kept a log. Right now, it's just all up in this old mind that's getting forgetful. So back in 2007, I had an opportunity to go to a BFRO expedition in eastern Tennessee. And it was exciting. I heard my first whoops and howls and realized how they did things. And I wanted to get into it full time. But as a minister and a pastor, I don't have the leisure of traveling and going all the time. So I just had a thought, man, if I could do this in Kentucky, just where I live. And so I began to search and found the Kentucky Bigfoot Research Organization, who is an organization, one of the largest in the state of Kentucky. They're a serious team, scientific team, and they're a no-kill group. They want to preserve Bigfoot. And so I found that they deal only in Kentucky. And much to my surprise, they needed somebody to cover the Western Kentucky area. And so I spoke with Charlie Raymond, who's the founder of the KBRO. He took me on board, and I started seriously researching in 2007. I have interviewed myself over 100 eyewitnesses myself. I want to say this on your show, let some people down. I've never seen a Bigfoot myself. I'm living for that day. I've got a FLIR thermal camera, and I've had 3 good hits at nighttime of a Bigfoot on my thermal camera. And I've been every experience. I've been hooped at, hollered, screamed, rocks thrown, whistles, eye shine, a tree pushed over and I heard it run off. That's my scariest episode. I found footprints. I found their scat. I found their hair. Just about every experience. But I believe in Bigfoot the most because of all the witnesses I spoke to. I spoke to people that had college degrees, so many degrees behind their name, people call them Fahrenheit. I spoke to people so uneducated they can't write their name. I spoke to people, the very rich business owners, people that here in the country, Kentucky, we say don't have a pot or a window, if you know what I'm talking about. And I love that all these people, all the spectrum, all the financial spectrum, all the from educated to, didn't finish high school. And they all tell the same story of a 6 to 7 foot hair covered creature that looked like a man. And these people, I've had them cry. I've had them break down and have to stop telling their story and have to calm them down. I've seen big grown men. I've got one story, if I share it tonight, the Bubba story, the biggest man I ever met in my life. And he was wringing his hands and big old tears coming down his face. And these people saw something and it changed their lives. And that's why I really believe in Bigfoot.
That's, you really just almost described me. The way you said that you haven't seen one. I have not seen one. Daryl has had a couple of sightings. I've never seen one, but I've had one FLIR hit, and that was in North Georgia. And but I found the hair. Daryl and I found hair. And I found prints, casted plenty of prints in the North Georgia, Tennessee area. But yeah, man, you described me to a T, and I agree with you 100%, man. There's something about all these people having similar encounters.
Absolutely. I've spoke to sheriffs and sheriff's deputies. Tugboat captains that run up and down the Ohio and Green River here in Kentucky. I spoke to small airplane pilots, railroad train engineers, loggers, of course, hunters, people from all walks of life. And they just begin describing, and ministers and Christian people and good old hillbillies out in eastern Kentucky. And I'm always amazed that it leads to almost the same creature. I don't get a large variance, in color, hair color, skin color, but, the tall, of course, some see juveniles. I don't want to mean everyone is, but the same cookie cutter pattern. But you know where it's headed when you talk to them. And, we've been trained to look for the flags. If that they'll say it turned at the waist, and the people try to act it out, and that's, you go, oh yeah, that's it, because they don't turn at the neck usually. They'll turn at the waist. That they walk with the elongated swinging of the arms, and so when a witness, and I love the witnesses, Daryl, that's never seen a Bigfoot, don't even know if they believe in Bigfoot. I literally have a farmer that lives in Ohio County, Kentucky, not 20 miles from where I live right now. And for the last 20 years, off and on, when he's doing his farming in his combine, he says there's this big old gorilla on my property. And he said, when I'm out there on the combine and I'm away from the woods, he'll come to the edge of the woods and stand there and watch me. But if I get near with my combine, he backs off into the woods. And I said, well, sir, there's not gorillas here in Kentucky, right? And he said, yeah, I figure it escaped. He's about 80-year-old. He said, I figure it escaped from the zoo. And it's just on my property. He said, if he ain't bothering me, I ain't going to bother it. And it's just and I said, well, that's a Bigfoot. He said, I don't even know if I believe in Bigfoot. Those are the people I love the most, because they're not looking for a Bigfoot. They're not prone to make something a Bigfoot. This man still won't call it a Bigfoot, but I know that he's seen a Bigfoot on his property, or a gorilla did escape from a zoo somewhere.
Yeah, that's something. These people will say, nah, I don't believe in Bigfoot. There's no such thing as Bigfoot. But let me tell you about this monkey I got on my property.
Exactly.
Let me tell you about this weird looking bear that runs around. Wow. It's crazy. You did get me interested and intrigued when you talked about the gentleman, the big gentleman that was rubbing his hands and stuff. Can you talk about what happened with him?
I love to tell this story. Being a minister, I've learned to deal and talk with people. I love people. First of all, let me explain. I'm a different character. I love people. I love different linguistics. I love to talk to people from Connecticut. Hey, you guys, let's get our sneakers on and go get a pop. I just laugh. I love that. I don't make fun of them. I love it. I love the Texas drawl of the Texas. I lived in Texas and pastored for 3 years and loved everything except scorpions and tornadoes. And that made me a tornado chaser. That's my other hobby right now that I do. I love to chase tornadoes. But I love the linguistics. So this guy was from Eastern Kentucky. I had heard he had a sighting. I went to his home to visit him. His mama, now he's got get this picture now. He's got a little bit old mama, a little bit old country lady. And she says, I'll call him in here. So when he comes in the house, she says to him, he's a monster of man. He's got to be, and I'm not trying not to exaggerate, he's got to be 6'4" or 6'5". He's got to be every bit of 300 pounds. This man's neck was big around the top of my leg. He had coveralls on and no shirt underneath. He looked like, the soggy bottom boys, except a very healthy one. And he come in and his mama said, this man's a preacher and you better watch your language. He said, yes, mama. And so the story is, I'm not going to try to talk just like he did. He had a hunting property that he told me, he said, I'd fight anybody for my hunting property. He'd raise certain crops. I don't understand all that, where the deer would eat and get bigger antlers. There's certain food you can feed them and they'll get bigger antlers and trophy racks, he called it. And he said, he told me, he said, if I had ever caught anybody on my hunting woods or in my tree stand, I'd shoot them. And I believed every word he was saying. And I'm standing there, I missed this part of the story. Wayne, I'm standing there looking up at this guy. I'm looking up. I'm 5'8", 5'9", and I'm looking up this monster man. And he said, preacher, I'm going to tell you something. He put his finger right in my nose. He said, and you better not laugh. And I said, no, sir, I'm not going to laugh. And he was in he's this man who would fight anybody. He said he would shoot somebody if he caught him in his deer stand. And I believe every word he said. And he said, I was in my deer stand and it just broke daylight. I had a 30-06 powerful gun. He said, I heard something come crashing through the woods. He said, I knew it was unbelievably loud. And he said, I thought, well, this is some big buck deer in rut. He's going to step out and I'm going to get me a good deer. And he said, I was standing in that tree stand when this thing, 7 or 8 foot tall, black hair covered creature walked right out of the woods like I walk. And he done this, swing, and said it stopped and sniffed the air and turned and looked straight at me up in my deer stand. And he said, I wanted to shoot it and kill it. This sounds like the same story. He said, I wanted to shoot and kill it, but it looked like it was a man. It looked like a person. And he said, I didn't know what to do. And I said, what happened to you? And this is big old tears in his eyes. And he said, well, I wet myself. I wet my pants. He said, I was scared and didn't know what to do. And he said, I felt that this gun was now 30-06 was not enough. And he said, I stood and looked and it turned and walked off. And he said, I come out of the deer stand and come home. Now he's shaking. Now he's wringing his hands. He's got big old tears coming down his eyes. I'm talking about a monster of a man. And he said, I'll never go back hunting there ever again. I'll never go back. I tried to tell him, you can go back. They're not usually aggressive creatures. It didn't try to come towards you. He wasn't having any of it. But for a man that big to stand there and have tears and shaking, look, he was doing this and wringing his hands. I watch people. I know people. I've come to know people after 50 years of doing this. I have a slight degree in psychology. And this man wasn't lying. And a man won't lie to you in tears and tell you he wet himself. He's not going to make himself look bad. You see what I'm saying? So my Bubba story is one of my, I love, when I walked out of there, had I not believed in Bigfoot, I believed it after speaking to Bubba.
That's awesome. Wow. I'm going to share that one if you don't mind.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's a good encounter. And Mr. Darrell there, not to embarrass him too much, but he can attest to the wetting yourself when you see one of these things.
I agree. I saw mine and I wet my pants. I could not, it scared me. So, and I'm not afraid to share that. I've said it from day one. I peed myself, and I peed more than I've ever peed in my life, let me tell you. So,
it's a human reaction. We're not supposed to see. It's not supposed to be there, And Wayne, I don't know if you saw my video on my YouTube channel. That was a pretty good sized man that I interviewed. I think I sent you that copy. Now, that man was 6'2" or 6'3", 260 pounds. And he says on the film, he says on the taped interview that he wet himself when he seen his coon dog ripped apart. So, these people, men don't tell you that. A man won't say something to make himself look bad normally. And so I believe that, Darrell, and it's a human reaction. I don't know what I'll do. Let me tell you one other weird, funny thing I think is funny. My wife has put up with me doing this. Usually I go by myself. She does. I'm always well armed, not for a Bigfoot, but I carry a 44 Magnum or one of my 357s always, because in this research, I've run up on a marijuana patch. And of course, they're protected around here by armed people. And then my worst scare was I walked up on a meth lab. I smelt the smell. I saw the coolers and the wire and the batteries. I backed out and called the state police, and they came and said it was had just been used. It was still in operation. So I carry a gun for those reasons. But my wife doesn't like for me to go by myself. She said, somebody's going to knock you in the head some night. So my wife would go with me every once in a while. Did not believe in Bigfoot? Forget it. She thinks I'm crazy, but she loves me. So about 4 or 5 years ago, she went with me one night, sat in the truck, and I walked out about 50 yards from the truck, and I had my ball bat, and I made a knock on a tree, and from back behind the truck, I got a return knock. It was a good ways off. So I can't see her in the truck, and I'm thinking, I hope she's looking and listening. So I hit again, and it was amazing. He had came at least 100 yards closer, and he hit again. So I walked to the truck, and my wife's sitting there at the window down, her eyes are this big around. And I said, are you hearing this? She said, yes. And I can't imagine what that could be. She would always tell me a howl or a whoop might be some animal, but she said nothing can be knocking on a tree. And I mean louder than I was knocking. So I walk right there by the truck, and I haul off and give it my home run swing. And this thing sounded like it's 25 yards in the wood. It sounded like a fence post being swung and hitting a tree. And when it hit, it cracked and splintered. You could hear it splintering and the pieces falling on the ground. And I said, we're getting out of here. And so my wife left that incident, not a skeptic anymore. Would you believe that 4 years ago, I had a sighting. I did a follow-up story. I went there and stayed out that night squatching and left my recorder on the hood of my truck, drove off. So the next morning early, I said, I've got to go back and find my recorder. I've lost my little recorder, audio recorder. She said, well, I'll ride with you. We went over here to Hopkins County, Kentucky, and I got out and was looking all around for my recorder. Needless to say, it was gone. I don't know where it fell off the truck yet, and I lost about a $40 recorder. On the way out of that road, we saw a little baby deer walk out in front of the truck. He was wobbling on the gravel road. And I said, well, look, it's real thick woods. I said, look, something's wrong with that baby deer. My wife said, Well, pull up and my wife's like Ellie Mae Clampett. She's a dog rescuer. She's raised possums, coons, squirrels, baby deers. And so if there's an animal injured, my wife's out to get it. So my wife said, pull up a little bit and I'll get the deer. As I was pulling up, my eyes are on the deer, little old spotted deer in the road. My wife opens the door of the truck and jumps out and takes off running and passes the deer. And I said, what are you doing? And she said, I just saw Bigfoot. I just saw Bigfoot. So I speed up to where she's at. She stops at the edge of the woods. And when I stop with my window down, I hear it sound like a tractor going through the woods. Crash, smash, limbs and everything. And I said, what happened? And she said, it was crouched on the side of the road. It was watching that deer. She said, when you stopped there, it slowed down. It stood up and turned around and walked straight down in that ditch and took off through the woods. And my wife has seen a Bigfoot. Here I am out all the time looking, and my wife is a firm believer. She saw it. About 7 foot tall. We marked a place where the top of its head was by a limb. We went back with the KBRO members and found footprints, and we found several bones, a feeding area in the woods about 200 yards from there. But we found a large 18-inch print. But I always laugh about that. My wife could care less, and she saw Bigfoot, and I'm still trying to see one.
Ain't that how it goes?
Crazy.
That is crazy.
Hey, Mr. Neal, can I ask you a question here?
Yes.
You're a minister. You're a God believer. What do you believe Bigfoot is? Spiritual, human, animal, manimal? What do you think? Interdimensional? What do you think?
I'm a real, as a minister, I try not to, I don't want to ever offend anybody, but all I can do is tell the truth. If I say anything short of the truth, I'm a liar. I don't know. When I entered this field of research in 2007 and got serious, I thought maybe it was an as yet undiscovered North American bipedal ape, maybe a descendant of Gigantopithecus blackie. I done had all that preformed idea. I wasn't in it 2 or 3 months and talking to the people after people, a sheriff, spoke to a sheriff. They're trained in detail and observance, and said this was a man. This looked like an Indian in the face. This was a man. And it wasn't long I was into it, and I thought, this is not a monkey. This is not a gorilla. I'm a firm believer it's not an animal. Past that, I'll just have to be honest. I don't want to be a boring guest. I don't know. Now, I believe in the spiritual things. Listen, you can't believe in the Bible and not believe in the supernatural, or I call it the spiritual. I believe in a Bible where donkeys talked and axe heads floated. I mean, come on. And I believe in a lot of things. I'm a very open-minded minister. I believe in UFOs and I believe in spirits because I've seen them, and I did exorcisms, whether people believe that or not. I know demons are real. I don't know about mind speak. I don't know about interdimensional travels. I don't know about if they're related to UFO. I'm not in that. I'm just in the research of Bigfoot as a creature. I've had a lot of weird things happen to me. So how could I say it's not true with a Bigfoot? Because I've had, like I say, I don't get into other experiences, but I could write a book of the things that I've been through and seen. And I know there's otherworldly things, and we don't understand the half of it. But to be honest with you, Daryl, I do believe they can zap. I saw that happen on a BFRO expedition. I saw the leader of our group zapped. He became unstable. He became sick to his stomach. He was disoriented. And when he walked away from the woods, he got better. And he was not a guy who would act that way normally in front of people. So I believe that, but I just don't, I have a hard time believing they cloak. If y'all do believe that, I don't mean to be offensive. I believe they are the masters of the wood. I believe they are camouflage, and their entire existence has to be not to be seen. They've been here since the American Indians and before, and their whole life is to not be seen. And, I've had thermal hits of them in the woods at night at 200 and 300 yards, and they're still hiding. Charlie Raymond has the greatest nighttime thermal hit of Bigfoot that the group couldn't see. Plain as day, it was dark at nighttime, but the thing was down on his belly, army crawling, I call it, just crawling on his face. I mean, they're still careful when they can't be seen. So I think a lot of people think they disappear. I think they get to where they can't be seen. I deer hunt some. I'm not a great deer hunter. But listen, I know 2 or 3 times I've had a deer. I seen him coming through the woods. I said, oh, he gets closer, I'm going to get him. And when he stops moving, all of a sudden, I can't see him. I thought, man, he disappeared. He's gone. Maybe then his tail, he flags that down. I go, but for a moment, I couldn't see him. So a lot of times I think they're just so adaptive to the woods. And I believe in the woods, a Bigfoot outnumbers us, outsmarts us. Listen, we're no comparison. I don't believe a Green Beret, an Army Ranger, or Navy SEAL is equal to a Bigfoot in the woods. I believe that they're smarter than us. Believe that. They can't operate a phone. They can't get on a computer. But in the woods, we don't know nothing, and they know everything.
Okay, so during your interviews with your Native American Indian chiefs, did they tell you they're spiritual?
They believe they're spiritually related. They believe they're an omen of things to come. They believe that they bring signs of good or bad. And they tell that their ancestors were friendly to the wild man of the mountains or the hairy man of the woods, and that they would exchange. And most of the Indian chiefs, I remember one Apache Indian chief, and they were the hardest people to get to know, the Apaches, even still today. They're very secluded, very introverted. But the Apache chief said that, we learned to get along with them, but not encroach on them, and not, I'm trying to use the proper terminology, that we would just trade things with them. They'd say they would trade blankets and beads, and they would trade, but he said, we backed away and didn't bother them because you left them alone. You didn't bother them. He told me, he said, you should not research, and I said, well, I'm going to, but he said, just leave them alone. So yeah, they did attach a spiritual meaning to them. And again, I'm not saying that's not true. It could be. I haven't experienced that yet.
Well, see, when I had my first sighting, I was introduced to a Cherokee spiritualist. He was a holy man.
Yeah.
And he came and told me, he said, they are the boss of the mountain. They are Wopekamal, the man in the flowered house. They protect the mountains and the animals. They do all of that. So, and he even told us, he goes, you're never going to be able to shoot one. You're never going to kill one. You're going to see it. It's going to disappear. And I've kind of stuck by that format, I guess, if you want to say. I'm sorry, my words are not always correct, but I've always stuck by that. And, I've kind of walked that yellow line. I've asked Dwayne 100 times, well, what do you believe? I know Wayne believes it's a real thing. It's a thing, you know what I mean? It's a Bigfoot. I walk that fine line because I've been in a field where I've seen 2 footprints in the middle of a snow area with no trees around it, and there's no more footprints. Wow. Where'd it go? I mean, but the trail that I left, a toddler could follow. You know what I mean? Right. So, well, thank you, Mr. Neal. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and that's one thing I do. I don't doubt somebody's experience. If you experience that, that's real. So you got to be open. I got to be open-minded enough to put that up in the files, and go, here's an experience. And I've heard that on other occasions, someone following a footprint and it's like they just disappeared and stopped. Yes. So I don't know where to place that, but I'm not going to just shun it. It's not what I believe is all I believe. And being a minister, I always get the question, what do you believe they are? Are they descendants of Esau? Are they descendants of the Edomites? Are they Nephilim? Are they Cain, descendants of Cain? I can't, in all my research, and I specialize in the Hebrew study of the Bible. And back in the 70s and 80s, I studied the Aramaic Hebrew, which is the first 5 books of the Bible, the Torah. And I think I'm fairly versed in it. I can't see a connection. They may be, but I can't see a connection with the Bible. But I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some. I know who. I tell people I don't know what a Bigfoot is, but I know who created it. I know who its creator is.
I think we all know who the creator is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, we've been going for almost 45 minutes, and we ain't even started talking about these pictures that you sent me, and I'm excited about these pictures. So we're gonna go ahead and get into them. First one I want to pull up is one that I found really intriguing, and that is of the eye shine. Can you talk about this?
In 2007, I obtained a hunting lease in Ohio County, Kentucky, and I'll talk about that county a lot. Ohio County, Kentucky has, of 120 counties in the state of Kentucky, it has some of the highest sighting reports of a lot of other counties in Kentucky. I obtained on the Green River in a very secluded area, old uncut timber, a 100-acre lease in the middle of a 3,000 acres tract of woods. and this is very private land. It's lock and key gated to get in. The only way in is a 3-mile gravel road that passes no houses, no barns, no farms. So you got to, somebody said that's somebody wandering out there. You got to know how remote and secluded this place is. Then I unlocked the gate, which is a gigantic gate. It weighs about 300 pounds when you swing it open. And then I'm in that property, 100 acres by myself. I put up trail cameras. This was the first year we were there, and we put out trail cameras, my brother and I, looking to get deer like you see. It's looking over a salt block. There's some corn laid down there, and we've got raccoons, as you can see. We've got deer, 476 pictures, and then there was this picture. Now, if you look at that picture that I shot, there's 2 trees on either side of it. That is a path that goes up over a hill and goes back down and drops down several feet behind it and goes about 1,000 yards to the Green River. There is no road back there. There's no highway. Those are not brake lights. There's no place for a car to drive. And if that's tail lights to a car, it's about 100 feet in the air. So I thought that was unusual. I sent it to an investigator who was with the BFRO who lived in St. Louis, Missouri. He asked me permission, and he took and had it photo analyzed by someone who worked at a police, I think they work in a police department. They use some of their latest photo equipment. And what they came back and said is that this was not photoshopped in any way. It was actually in the picture, and that it was not lights, but it was something emitting this glow. We went back and did a 2-week study, my brother and I, and found the tree, and I got some daytime pictures. It's 7 feet 2 inches right about to where the eyes are shining. So it was taller than that, 7 feet 2 inches. This is probably not a week into me owning the property. Since then, I researched there all the time. I have found several tree structures. I have had an Indian teepee that was built on this property, and I mean it looked like an Indian teepee, 8 or 9 logs. I've got a video on my YouTube page. We have been whistled at. We've had yells. I've had other Bigfoot researchers in there, and they return our knocks and return our yells, and I've been whooped at and whistled. They whistle a lot over there. And so little did I know, I went to lease hunting property and just hit the bingo and got a squatching area. So this has been confirmed by someone who analyzed the picture as being not photoshopped, and that it's naturally in the picture. There's something back there.
Yeah, you answered what was going to be my first question, which was, have you had a chance to go back and do a size comparison with 7'2"? That's awesome that you did that. There's
no limbs. I look for it to be at the BFRO, at the KBRO. Excuse me. I want to be sure to give a little ad for them if I may. But Absolutely. At the Kentucky Bigfoot Research, we're told if you can go out to an interview, if it can be something else, then it's something else. We do not go to every report saying it's a Bigfoot. We've had misidentifications. We've run into some people, just be honest with you, wasn't telling the truth. They were looking for some sensational stories and everything. So I went back and looked, and I got daytime pictures, and I was looking for limbs. If this could have been an owl and the reflection of this trail camera is reflecting off of it, fine. There are no limbs with at least 20 feet high before limbs start that an owl, even big enough for an owl to be able to sit on. So we absolutely ruled out it being an owl for anybody that might be watching this program.
Yeah. So 7'2". I don't know if it would be possible, but what I think would be cool and might lead a little bit more, give a little more evidence, is if there was any way that you could figure out how to measure the distance between the eyes.
Wow, yeah, that's a good idea.
I just don't know how that would be possible. Do you?
No, I'm afraid I'm not intelligent enough to figure that out, but somebody could.
I bet somebody could. Yeah, I mean, I'm like you. I certainly couldn't, but that looks convincing to me. I mean, other than, somebody standing on a bucket, out in the middle of the woods. I mean, what else could that be?
Yeah. Well, and again, you can't. Words can only explain so much. The remoteness and where this place is, and I know a lot of places aren't like it, but I'm talking about Kentucky. We've got a lot of old standing timber and old woods, and a lot of. This is 3,000 acre patch of woods, and I got 100 acres right in the middle of the thing, and it would be very unusual for somebody to just walk that far back in there and get captured on that. And I don't know that a human eyes reflect like that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Now, you might have already said, I think you did. Are you in the western part of Kentucky?
Yes. I take care of the western part of Kentucky all the way as far west as the land between the lakes. But I live about central western Kentucky, but I cover a lot of area down here.
Okay. All right. I'm trying to figure out how far you are from Tennessee, but I'm in southeast Tennessee, so
Okay.
it'd be a
But
good
from my house, it's only like 60 miles to the Tennessee border. 60 miles south. I'm kind of central western Kentucky. I go to Clarksville, Tennessee very often and eat, and it's not it's less than an hour's drive to get into Tennessee.
In Clarksville.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
you're not that far.
Clarksville was a nice place. That's where we got married.
Oh yeah.
My last duty station was Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
Oh well, that's where. My grandson's there now with the 101st Airborne Division.
That's me, buddy. 101st Airborne. Yep.
All right.
Wow, good deal. You're closer than I thought. You need to come to our camp out.
Yeah, I'm not 2 hours from Nashville, and
we're about 2.5 hours south of Nashville.
Okay. I have been Bigfooting at Standing Stone State Park there in Tennessee.
Standing Stone is a hotbed, buddy. That's on my bucket list. I know the BFRO has a lot of expeditions up there.
That was my first one in 2009. Was with the BFRO at Standing Stone, and I heard my first howl and my first hoot. That the first night we went out, it was amazing.
The last one that they had, which was toward the end of last year, I think there were 3 or 4 Class A sightings in there. Yeah, and I've been to Standing Stone several times in my life and had no idea that there were any Bigfoot in there until I got involved in this subject. But apparently they're all over the place in there.
Right.
Now I'm going to try to run through a couple of these prints real quick. Okay. If you want to talk about them.
This is a print I found at Land Between the Lakes area. My wife and I were down there in a cabin vacation. Of course, we don't do anything anymore. I'm not squatching all the time. If we go to Florida, I'll plan a route where I can stop at 2 or 3 places where there's been Bigfoot reports. It's just you're eat up with it. I'm eat up with it.
Yeah.
We were at a cabin, believe it or not, and at night I got out on the cabin and made some hoops. And that night, about 2 o'clock in the morning, something hit the cabin real hard, 2 different times. So I said, let's get out and go through the woods. And we were just walking around looking through the woods. It's actually a deer hunting lodge. The man, people pay him to come and they get trophy deer. And we were there in an off season when the hunting was over. So it's no TV. It's no satellite reception. There's no your phones. Forget it. It's where you want to go and just get away to yourself. We were walking through the woods and I found this print, and that's it right when I found it. I don't know if you can see it, but here is the finished print right here. This is the finished product. That's it while there was still dirt and everything on it. This is the finished product. There's the toes. Let me see if I can do this. Okay. And this was found June the 13th of 2019. It's 17 inches long. It's 8 inches across at the toes and 5 inches across at the heel.
And that was at the LBL?
That was down at LBL, the Land Between the Lakes area.
Okay.
Many reports, lots of reports from down there.
No, that's not this one, is it? No, that's a different one.
No, this is this print right here. Let me be careful. These are from a researcher named Thomas Shea. I want to give accolades. One of the greatest researchers in the entire state of Kentucky.
I've heard about him.
Yeah, Cliff Barackman and Bobo visited him and said he has as many fine prints, some of the best prints I've ever seen of anybody they've ever visited. This print came from Trimble County, Kentucky on October the 27th, 2014. And this is one of Thomas Shea's prints. And he's such a great friend. I drove to his house and he gave me these copies. These are copies. That is gigantic. But listen, he has one he's been studying for years. He named it Goliath. And its 20 some odd inch print makes this one look small. Goliath is unbelievably huge. They've had glimpses of him. They've seen him. And I got this print here from Thomas Shea. This was from Henry County, Kentucky, October 24th, 2016. That's gigantic, boys.
Yeah.
That's the fingertips. It was in a ditch. The way I understand the story, a hunter heard some noise. He went down into a stream, a creek, and he saw the Bigfoot. It put its hand into the bank and jumped up over the bank and took off. And so Thomas got there literally a little while right after that, maybe the same day, and made that handprint right out of that bank where it threw its hand in there.
So yeah, I remember you said that wasn't yours. So that's one of Thomas's prints.
Thomas Shea. Those last two prints are his.
Now you know the picture of the handprints that I sent you.
Yes,
Mr. Darrell there is the one that collected that.
Oh man, what an awesome! Wow, that is awesome.
Yeah, that was out in California.
That is huge.
Yeah, he got that with some Reese Pieces. He tricked them. You want to tell him how you did that, Darrell?
You know what a bait trap is?
Yes.
You dig a hole. What we dug a hole about the size of a dinner plate, about 3 feet deep. We put about 40 pounds of sand around the hole and dropped a bunch of Reese's Pieces down in the hole, and we left it for 24 hours. Went back and we had a perfect footprint and a perfect handprint in the snow or in the sand, and we casted it. And then I had it done. I had 3D scans taken of it. I've had it documented, and it sits in a bank vault, believe it or not.
Wow.
I don't even keep it at my home. I have a lock on it. I've got certification papers on it. I've got the whole thing on it. So, and it's in a bank vault.
Amazing.
So I don't hardly ever take it out. I've only let a handful of people hold it. You know, Wayne's one of them. I think I've allowed about 6 people to actually put it in their hands. And I've had it for 27, 28 years. So,
well, thank you for preserving that. Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome.
Well, it's my pride piece. You know, everybody has a pride piece.
Absolutely.
And that's my pride piece because I have documentation of people that were with me when it got casted, who casted it, why it was casted. And I have a footprint that goes with it that I carry around in my truck. And I use that as a showpiece so people can take a picture with a footprint, because my truck is kind of a Bigfoot museum. So yeah. The handprint is my pride piece.
It's so funny you should say that. We've got to use new techniques to get what we can. And speaking back to Thomas Shea, because Darrell reminds me of him so much. Thomas Shea took some big white pipe. I don't know what you call them. Anyway, it's the big white pipe about that big around, and he made an elbow like this. Anyway, where you had to reach your hand. The idea is the Bigfoot would reach his hand in like this. He put a jar of Nutella, a big jar of it's like peanut butter, I guess. I believe it or not, I've never eaten Nutella. He took the top off and put it back in there and affixed it to a tree where you'd have to put your arm in and then crook it, and he captured fingerprints. And if I'm not mistaken, it has a dermal. He stuck its arm in there and had to crook it and put its fingers in that Nutella. And so Thomas took and froze the Nutella, and when it got froze, then he cast it, those fingerprints, and it's like this with its hand run up. I mean, it takes ideas like that, and Darrell's idea, it's something new. Wow.
Yeah, I heard it might have been him on Cliff and Bobo's podcast, Bigfoot and Beyond. I think I heard him talking about that on there. That is really, really cool. That's really, really cool.
You know, I've seen
stuff like that.
I've seen researchers where they've taken those PVC pipes and they've used the big round ones, like the 5-inch ones, and they've made it into an L. And they've actually they've taken staples and put staples through the PVC pipe. So when they stick their arm in there, they rake it back out. They get DNA, they get hair, scratches them. So that might be another idea if somebody's out there doing that. Also, they use 3/4 inch for like a finger. And what they do is they put peanut butter in a small jar, like a glitter jar, and they actually put peanut butter in. They screw it on there. But what they do is they put a tack or a thumbtack in the bottom of that, where if they reach in there to pull the peanut butter, it sticks their finger. the tack stays. They still get the peanut butter, but you still get the blood or the DNA. So there's a lot of tricks of the trade. I'm hoping to share a lot of these at the campground that we've used.
Oh, that would be great.
But the elbow one with the big PVC pipe and the Nutella, I got to be honest with you, I don't like Nutella, so I don't ever use it. I use mayonnaise, something like that. You know, just in case I get hungry, I can take the mayonnaise off and make a sandwich. So,
hey, Daryl, one other thing. I know you probably know this already, but you was talking about speaking to the Indian peoples, and I highly respect them. I'm descendant of Cherokee Indian myself. But I always tell this in our presentations. We speak at Rotary clubs and colleges and high schools. And before white man came to Americas, there were over 200 Indian tribes in the United States. I mean, the entire United States, from New York to Texas, from Washington State to Florida. 200 tribes. And I always ask the crowd this: can you guess how many of 200 different tribes and offshoots of Indian tribes had a story in their folklore, in their history, of the wild man of the woods or the tall man of the mountains or the hairy man ape thing? Would you want to guess how many?
Every one of them. Every one of them.
All 200. Yeah,
right.
100 would be amazing. 150 would be mind blowing. Of 200 Indian tribes, every single tribe has a story of a Bigfoot type creature. That's unbelievable.
The only thing that's different about their stories are their names. And then they got the skinwalkers. And every tribe, every Indian culture has a skinwalker, and they have a Bigfoot. So, and then you look at the petroglyphs, and they've got some got UFOs, some got Bigfoots. So
we're not just making this stuff up, guys. I mean, people aren't just making this stuff up. I mean, like Don said earlier, the accounts are too similar. Right. Too many people are seeing the same thing and in the same areas. And
I've always said, if Bigfoot's not real, some team of scientists or a team of doctors needs to get together and study the greatest mass hallucination that's ever been taking place in the history of mankind.
You're right.
Once there's somewhere around 17,000 that they could guess reported sightings of Bigfoot. And as one researcher said, I can't remember which one it was. If only one of those reports is true, Bigfoot is real.
Yeah. That's right.
That's amazing. That is amazing. These last few pictures, I think you might know the ones I'm gonna pull up to end with here, Don. These might be somewhat controversial a bit because they're awful clear, and anytime something's clear, that's when people start to holler, you know what? And absolutely. I hate that it's like that.
I'm used to ridicule. I'm used to, and I tell everybody that's fine. You know, they weren't me. They didn't get the pictures, and all I know is the pictures that was given to me. So, you know, anything could be possible.
Pictures and video is never going to be enough to confirm that this thing is real. You could have the best 4D high def video of two Bigfoots slapping each other from 10 feet away, and someone will holler, "It's a man in a suit."
You're right.
And every Bigfoot researcher is used to being called a hoaxer, or you faked it, or some. Trust me, 28 years and I'm still getting it. So,
but this, you didn't collect these. Tell us about these pictures, and I'm just going to run through them.
Okay, here in the county I live in, not 10 miles from my house, I was called to a home of a young man, about 25-year-old, and his father, and they had a 60-inch TV screen, and they said, we hear you believe in Bigfoot. I said, I do. They said, the father was really upset. He said, somebody's either playing a trick on us on our property. He said, it's but restricted private property. They have no business being there. And he said, they're going to get shot. And he said, I want you to look at these pictures. And they began to run these straight from their SD card out of their camera on a 60-inch TV screen. These pictures don't even do it justice. You ought to see this straight off the SD card. These are copies given to me. You ought to see it off the SD card on a 60-inch TV screen. It was mind-blowing. It goes in front of the camera 2 different times, going in 2 different directions. In front of the camera is a camouflage camera, and he had it hidden in some bushes trying to capture deer. But it was he said a man couldn't walk through there and just see it usually. It looks like a creature in the big picture on a TV screen. straight off the SD card. It looks like it's got mange. It looks like there are places on its body where hair is missing. I have researched and found reports of other people reporting in other states of them having hair loss, and they believed it was to the mange or some kind of disease. But this thing runs back and forth 2 or 3 times. I can't tell in this picture right there that you just had up if it has its arm raised up and it's like hooding its eyes to see, or I mean, I don't know. I can't figure out what that is, or if that's its long hair. It is unusual looking. These people were convinced somebody either played a trick on them, or now they didn't believe in Bigfoot. They said, we don't believe in Bigfoot, but this thing looks weird. It was, I don't know if it's dated on the picture here. If it sees, this was in the heat of summer. I mean, extremely hot time of summer. Somebody was awful miserable, sweating to death. If this was somebody in a costume, taking a chance to get shot on this private property behind these people's house.
Yeah, it says August 14th, 2015. So it was hot outside.
It was extremely hot. So they wanted me to look. I told them I thought it could be a Bigfoot, although an unusual looking, but I would not say it was. They made me a copy, and I didn't lose much pixelization, but it will never look like it did when I looked on their screen. They didn't. Then they wanted to quit talking about it. They didn't invite me back anymore because they just didn't want anybody on their property. So I'll tell you my sincere belief, this man and his son, if this is a hoax, they did not hoax it. Someone may have went in there, I'll give you that, and may have hoaxed them. What a brave man and what a hot man he was to do that. But I don't believe the son and the father hoaxed it. They were really upset. I mean, they were really beside themselves.
Yeah, and they haven't come out to try to gain any kind of recognition from this.
I'm the
either.
only person they've showed the pictures to. I'm the only person that has these copies of these pictures. They do not even talk about it anymore. You can't go to their house and see it. I've not been, they wasn't mean to me. They just said, we don't want to draw attention to our property and have anybody else here. So I'm the only person you're seeing these pictures, the only time you'll see them.
Now this was 2015, correct?
Yes.
I'd be interested to know if they've had anything else happen.
Well, I asked them, please. I said, I won't come on your property then, but if you have any other incidents or events, please let me know. They gave me their solemn word they would. I've never heard a thing from them.
Okay. The only thing that's bothering me in this picture is it just doesn't look like there's anything to it, any kind of a face.
Well, some people that I've shown to think that's the face that, how do I explain to you, right? The little white spot on the front of it there. And then another person said, no, it's looking away. It's looking off to the right as it's traveling. So I don't know if that's
okay.
that right area or if it's walking away. It is headed to the right.
Because I'm assuming that clearing there in the head, that's the face, and you don't see any eyes or a nose or a mouth or anything.
Exactly. No, I agree. And neither on the big screen TV. See, and here, is that the face, that light color, is that a face? Or again, is it still looking away to the right? And this is a side profile, a place with maybe no hair. I don't know.
Yeah. What do you think, Daryl?
I don't have an opinion, you guys. I mean, it's a picture.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know. To me, it looks pretty good. Arms and legs are there. That big bald spot on the face could be mange on the neck and up the side of the head, and it's looking away. I mean, it's all, if you look at the fur, it's got bald spots all over, so it could be mange.
Do you notice the sticks and the leaves? That last picture you just had up, you notice there's sticks and leaves hanging to his skin.
Hanging on, right.
Yeah, and it's very matted. And
wow.
So, I don't know. I don't claim it to be anything else but some interesting pictures. I believe the father and son.
Yeah.
A lot of people, when they think we're Bigfoot researchers, they think we're the Ghostbusters. I've had people come to their house and say, I've got Bigfoots bothering me. How do I get rid of them? I said, well, we're not Ghostbusters, but put up lights. The best thing to put up some lights. But they just wondered what I thought. And they was hoping I could tell if it was a man in a costume because he said somebody's going to be in trouble.
Well, they're lucky somebody ain't shot.
And these, I hate to act like everybody in Kentucky's bad. Listen, these people shoot you on their property. Eastern Kentucky, it's even worse. They don't give you a chance.
Nope. I think that goes the same for the people in Tennessee out here. They see one, they're gun happy out here. So.
Well, I think they are too in Kentucky too, ain't they, Don?
Yes, sir.
In California, the only people that carries guns out there are drug dealers, so we're okay.
All right, yeah, but I mean, those pictures are definitely intriguing, and I think probably the most interesting part is how you say the two individuals, the father and the son, handled it.
Right.
That makes it the most credible to me.
Right.
Like you said, if it is hoaxed, I don't think they hoaxed it.
No.
And if that's the case, then the person that did hoax it was a combination of brave and stupid.
Exactly.
You know?
Had a little bit too much corn whiskey that night.
All right. Well, we've gone an hour and 10 minutes, and Don, something tells me that we've only scratched the surface, and there's a lot more that you could share. And I'd love to have you back, buddy.
I'd love to be back. We have over 300. Can I give a little plug for the KBRO?
Do it. Go.
Our website is www.KentuckyBigfoot.com. Spell out KentuckyBigfoot.com. We have sightings of 120 counties in the state of Kentucky. We have sightings in 98 counties. We have them all listed by county. And we have over 300 reports there. And I can share just about every one of those stories with you. I can't believe an hour and 10 minutes has passed, but I'd like to push for the Kentucky Bigfoot Research. It's a very interesting website. We won an award being one of the best websites in the state of Kentucky in the story of Bigfoot. And I want to plug Charlie Raymond. I appreciate the chance to be a researcher and investigator for them. And I'm out weekly. I get reports almost weekly. Kentucky is a real hot spot. I'm really excited to be in this state. Yeah.
Before we let you go, Don, it's something that I wanted to ask you, and I forgot about it till right now. I don't know how mixed emotions on the show Expedition Bigfoot. Seems like everybody has their opinions, but they were in Kentucky this past season. And do you know anything about? Did you have any inside information about what went on in that show? If you can't talk about it, that's fine.
No, I have to be honest. I don't know anything about that. When the BFRO was doing their program on Animal Planet, they were in Kentucky twice. I was at the filming of both of those programs. I was at the town hall meetings, got to speak to them while they were here, got to meet the team. But no, on this Expedition Bigfoot, I don't know anything, no clue. I'm sorry.
Now, they supposedly found some chimpanzee DNA in one of the structures, and I didn't know if you knew anything about that.
No, that's news to me.
Yeah, that Miro, I can't think of her name. It was the lady. She's a doctor. She had, she's pretty smart. Knows her stuff, and she claims to have found some environmental DNA inside one of the a hut or something there that they believed was used, a Bigfoot nest, and they found chimpanzee DNA in the soil in Kentucky. How do you explain that?
Wow, that's amazing.
I don't know. Yeah, look into that. But being in Kentucky, being in Kentucky and a researcher for the biggest group in Kentucky, I didn't know if you might know something.
I don't. Charlie Raymond may. He's the real brainiac of our group. He's the founder and president of the KBRO, and he has so much information. He's a walking Bigfoot encyclopedia.
All right. Well, again, Don, I want to have you back, buddy. But I do want to thank you for taking the time to come on with us on this episode. It was awesome. One of my favorite episodes in a long time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. My pleasure. It's so nice to meet you and Daryl.
Thank you, Mr. Neal. Have a good night, sir.
I will. And if I may, God bless both of them.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Have a good night. All right. What do you think about that, Daryl?
That was great. Hey, I do want to say something. I want to thank a couple of people from California that are on there. Lynn, she's out there. She's actually in Oregon. She's part of the NCBPRA crew. And then I also want to say hi to Logan and Veronica. They're on here also. And then I want to tell you that the NCBPRA website has reached 130,000 views in a year and a half. And I've gotten 65 reports of Bigfoot sightings from Sacramento to the Oregon border. And I have a couple of crews out doing some investigations right now. So if we find anything substantial out that way, I will be sharing it with you, Wayne, and then you can post it, okay?
Awesome. Yeah, very cool. Very cool. All right. Let's say our goodbyes, Daryl.
All right, sir. Well, you guys, remember my saying and my thing, keep your eyes on the horizon, keep your eyes on the trees, always. Don't always keep your eyes on the ground. There's a lot of things in the trees that we don't see. So God bless you all, and thank you for having me on the show, Wayne. I really appreciate it, and hope everybody has a good afternoon, good evening, and good day. So thank you very much once again.
Yeah, man. Glad you could fill in for our buddy Walls, and I want to ask everybody to keep Walls in your prayers. He and his wife are under the weather. Actually, they're both pretty sick. He didn't say COVID, but he's not a big believer in COVID. So even if he had it, I don't know if he would admit it. But they aren't doing real well. So just keep him in your prayers, and he might have something else going on. I told him I wouldn't talk a whole lot about, so might have some medical stuff going on. And I found out a couple days ago that my daughter has COVID, so and she's not feeling very well at all. So keep her in your prayers as well. I should have mentioned them at the beginning of the show, but it slipped my mind. But yeah, good show tonight. I want to thank Dawn again for taking time, coming on, hanging out with us, and Daryl, as always, for stepping in and helping us out. Always does a great job. And to everybody out there, all our guests, you guys are awesome. We love you guys. Thank you so much for everything that you do. Look forward to meeting all of you at our camp out. But before then, guys, everybody, y'all just take care of each other. Be good to each other. And we will see you around.